you watched the lectures and like that video on Zappos, you should be good even if you haven't really read the prompt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good. Here is the prompt. It says, please discuss with your group members your thoughts on organizational culture, what type of cultures you've experienced in the workplace, whether it's positive, negative, engaging, entertaining, etc. And if you believe that leaders are able to shape the culture. Cool. Who wants to start?
Well, I think we can all agree that leaders can shape the culture.
No, totally.
They're the ones guiding everyone. As far as organizational culture, obviously working at Starbucks, there's definitely a culture there. As far as the different parts like language, values, artifacts, there's definitely a way that you speak Starbucks language.
Mm-hmm.
They use a lot of we language, like including people that work with the company and customers. Like it's all we. Like very inclusional, team-based, I would say. And then as far as values, I think that Starbucks culture really values appreciation and things like assuming positive intent and like, for example, we look at problems as opportunities. There's no such thing as like a problem. It's something we can fix or something we can use to grow. Like super positive language and stuff like that. And then the chapter mentioned rituals and routines. And I think that's huge with Starbucks culture. Very much like using routines to ensure like accuracy and stuff like that. And I don't know if would the pillars count as artifacts? I wasn't really clear on what artifacts meant.
I think so. Like, yeah. Well, because it's like it's printed everywhere. Like it's printed on like the inside of our aprons, you know.
Yeah. So that's another part of our culture. And yeah.
What are the pillars?
They are anticipate, connect, personalize, and own. Those are like the things that we strive to do every day.
Okay.
Yeah, Starbucks really tries to create it's a culture that really tends to the customer, and you get the partners that really go along with it, and then you get the partners that kind of make fun of it in a playful way, and then you get the partners that don't like it at all. And it's funny to see it at my store. You get a mix between, it's a very positive, very friendly work environment, and we poke fun at it sometimes, but then we have one partner that really complains a lot and doesn't like being at work, and it's funny how less on a company-wide culture but more on a store culture, it really can take a hit. You can really tell a difference when they work the shift, that the store culture is way different. So I think there's the company-wide culture, and then there's each individual store culture, because I'm sure your guys' stores are different than mine. They have a different culture because you have different people working. So
yeah, of course. I've even
that's a good point.
Different.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That leaders do have a lot to do with setting the culture, but if everybody doesn't buy in,
exactly,
that everybody else is going to help to really shape how that culture is realized, that the leader wants to. And I don't know about, well, like you were saying with the stores versus the corporate culture, where I work, we're mostly offices of 2, 3, and 4 people, and we're all in our own individual offices with the doors shut, and it's but we're a huge organization. So, but you walk into one office and everybody's joking with their boss and everybody's laughing and it's really, really relaxed. You go into the next one, you could hear a pin drop. It's really quiet, and if anybody says anything, it's the boss telling somebody to do something. So even though we're a big organization, it's insane what you see from one office to the next.
Yeah, I think it's
sure
a whole lot of that goes on at Starbucks too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mentioned in this discussion already, but yeah, from store to store, there's totally different cultures. Like, a lot of the time, you know, partners from one store will go work at another, like if another store needs help. And sometimes it takes you a second to like suss out the culture of that store. And, you know, sometimes it's cool and sometimes it's really not. It really depends on who's, you know, leading that shift or the manager of that store and, you know, the tone that they've set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What did you guys? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think, you know, the discussion or the prompt said, can leaders influence culture? And I mean, obviously we all agree, but I would say that that's one of the most important aspects of a leader, is that if you can't control the culture, who are you going to get to buy into you, and who are you going to, you know, how are you going to get followers if you can't control the culture?
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, I think that, you know, culture and leadership, they aren't really things that can exist without each other, because if you're a leader, then you're setting the tone for the culture of, you know, that group that's following you.
I agree.
You know, whether or not you're doing it consciously is something else. I mean, hopefully you are, but yeah, I think no matter what, there is a culture, and it has everything to do with the leader.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think also, like, the people that a leader chooses, I think a lot of what the Zappos videos kind of spoke about is that, you know, the leader chooses people to follow them who they think fit within that culture. And I think that that happens a lot, you know, at Starbucks as well. People are chosen, you know, not just for their technical qualifications, because it doesn't really matter, you know, it could be your first job.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, you know, the interpersonal aspect and whether or not, you know, someone seems like they would fit in well within that culture and, you know, carry out the core values of Starbucks, customer service, and the 5 pillars and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's similar to how Apple works too. My wife used to work at Apple, and you go through like 4 group interviews, and it's not always the person that knows the most about you know, Apple products, or it's really they hire diverse people that will fit with their culture, and they know that they can shape them and mold them into how Apple wants them to be.
Mm-hmm. What kind of
Possibly.
cultures have you guys experienced, like in the past, outside of what you're experiencing right now? Because I know I feel like Starbucks is a pretty positive work culture, but I've definitely experienced other cultures in the past, and that's kind of what, you know, led me to that organization. Is I was looking for something a little bit more positive.
You know, me too, actually. The job I had before Starbucks, I worked in a child care center at a local, like, health club, and it was very privately owned and not ran very well. And I was given so much responsibility over things that, like, I wasn't really comfortable with. And there were no rules, and especially with childcare, like, I couldn't believe the things that nobody seemed to be concerned about. Like, I'd be left alone a lot with them, and I would always ask for help, and I kind of was shut down, and it was just really strange.
Mm-hmm.
And so the culture there definitely made me want to work somewhere where there was a lot of structure, and somewhere where people that were employed there were really paid attention to and cared for. And I think that's why I appreciate Starbucks so much, because it is the way it is.
Yeah. I think something that I wrote down a note about from the videos was that Tony Hsieh, I think is how you pronounce his name, he said if we get the culture right, then everything else will just be a natural byproduct. And I think that, I mean, skills, are an important thing, but I think at Starbucks that definitely goes a really long way, because you can have someone who is like a great barista, and if they have a crap manager, then they're probably going to end up feeling like crap as a barista.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think like the examples that they gave, how their work and their corporate culture kind of bled into their personal life. I mean, I see that happening too in my personal life, or like if I do business with someone, outside of work, I do let that color the way that I make decisions and communicate with other people.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. I'd probably say I used to be a little more negative and not so trusting, and the whole like assume positive intent thing with Starbucks actually kind of changed the way I look at things. Like, I don't really get frustrated. I don't really think people are out to irritate me or something like that. Like, I'm like, they probably got something going on, or they've, that kind of stuff. So that's happened to me as well.
Yeah. And that is right about at 10 minutes too. We're actually pushing 11.
Okay, perfect.